The explosion shook the entire palace. Queen of the Empire stumbled against the wall of her private chamber as alarms screamed through the corridors. She had been preparing for sleep when the first blast hit. Now, as she listened to the sounds of gunfire and shouting, she understood that everything had changed. She was not a fool. She had seen the signs for months, the secret meetings between her brother and the great houses, the whispered conversations that stopped when she entered a room, the way her advisors looked at her with something that was not quite loyalty anymore. But she had hoped. She had believed that 10,000 years of tradition would protect her. She was wrong. Her personal guard burst through the door. Captain, who had served her family for 50 years, stood before her with his weapon drawn. For one moment, felt relief. Then she saw the look in his compound eyes. "I am sorry, my queen," he said. His voice carried no emotion. "Prince has ordered your execution. The council has recognized him as the true ruler of the empire." Felt her heart slow. She had 4 of them like all her kind, and each one seemed to turn to ice. "You would betray your oath. You swore to protect me." "I swore to protect the empire," promises strength. He promises expansion. He promises glory. The captain raised his weapon. "You promised only peace." The shot came from behind him. Collapsed to the floor, a smoking hole in his back. Behind him stood his youngest handmaiden, holding a small plasma pistol with shaking hands. "My queen, we must run," said. Her voice was high with fear. "The loyalists are losing. The palace is falling." They ran, through secret passages that had known since childhood, through hidden doors that only the royal family knew existed. Around them, the palace burned. The sounds of battle echoed through ancient halls that had never known such violence. They almost made it. The assassin appeared from nowhere. One of elite killers. He moved like smoke, fast and silent. Died before she could scream, the assassin's blade passing through her throat. Tried to fight, but she was a queen, not a warrior. The second blade found her side, sliding between the plates of her exoskeleton and into the soft flesh beneath. She fell. The assassin stood over her, ready to finish the job. Then his head exploded. The human soldier stepped out of the shadows, his rifle still smoking. He was small by standards, barely reaching shoulder. His skin was soft and pink, without any protective covering. His eyes had only one lens each, round and strange. He wore the uniform of the United Earth Coalition Diplomatic Security Force. Remembered now. The human delegation had arrived 3 months ago. They were seeking trade agreements, peaceful contact. She had met their ambassador once, a female named Vance. She had not paid attention to the soldiers. This one knelt beside her. His face showed concern as he looked at her wound. "Hold still," he said in accented. "I am going to help you." "Why?" asked. The pain was making it hard to think. She could feel the poison in the blade working through her body. "Your people are evacuating. I saw the alerts. Go with them." The human did not answer. He was too busy pressing something against her wound, some kind of medical patch from his kit. His hands were steady and sure. He had done this before, she realized. He had treated wounds on a battlefield. "My name is Daniel," he said. "I am a sergeant in the Coalition Marines. I got separated from my unit during the attack. I was trying to find a way out when I heard the fighting." He looked at her with those strange single-lens eyes. "Can you walk?" "I do not know." Tried to stand. The pain nearly made her collapse. Daniel caught her, supporting her weight with surprising strength for such a small being. "Lean on me," he said. "We need to move. There will be more of them coming." They moved, through the service corridors that ran beneath the palace, through maintenance tunnels that Even had never used. Daniel moved carefully, checking every corner before they crossed. He kept his rifle ready at all times. Studied him as they walked. He was not special, she thought. He was not particularly tall or strong or fast. He was just a soldier, one of millions in his species' military. Yet here he was, risking his life for a queen who was not his own. You should leave me, she said. Her voice was getting weaker. The poison was spreading. Contact your embassy. They will send someone for you. My communicator was destroyed in the first attack, Daniel said. And even if it was not, I would not leave you. Why, I am nothing to you. I am not even your species. Daniel stopped. He looked at her with an expression she could not read. Human faces were so limited, she thought. They had only 2 eyes, only 1 mouth, only a few muscles to move their features. Yet somehow this human's face carried more emotion than any she had ever known. Because you need help, he said simply, and I can give it, that is enough. They kept moving. Behind them the palace burned. Empire was falling. Her brother was taking everything she had ever known. Her people had abandoned her, betrayed her, tried to kill her. But this human stayed. She did not understand it. She could not explain it. But as they moved through the darkness beneath her ruined palace, felt something she had not felt since the first explosion. Hope. The night was long. They hid in an abandoned storage room while patrols searched above them. Daniel shared his water and his ration bars, strange human food that tasted like nothing had ever eaten. He kept watch while she rested, his eyes never closing, his hand never leaving his weapon. Tell me about your home, whispered at one point. She needed to stay awake. She needed to focus on something other than the pain. Montana, Daniel said. A place on Earth with big mountains and wide plains. My family has a ranch there. We raise cattle, animals, he added, seeing her confusion, for food. You are a farmer. I was, then I joined the military, saw the stars, never thought I would end up here. He smiled slightly. Life is strange. Yes, agreed, it is. When morning came, they moved again. The city above them was in chaos, had declared victory. He had announced that the old queen was dead, but the hunt was still on. Somewhere in the darkness they were searching. And somewhere in that same darkness, a wounded alien queen and a simple human soldier were surviving together. One step at a time. 2 weeks passed in the shadows beneath the capital. Daniel and learned to survive together in the forgotten places of the ancient city. They slept in abandoned tunnels. They ate whatever they could find. They moved constantly, never staying in one place for more than a day. They were always hunting. Grew weaker with each passing day. The wound in her side had closed thanks to Daniel's medical supplies, but the poison from the assassin's blade was still working through her body. Her silver blood had turned dark. Her movements had become slow. Her compound eyes, once bright with 1,000 colors, were dimming. Daniel watched her struggle to walk one morning and made a decision. We need to rest, he said. You need to save your strength. We cannot rest, replied. Her voice was barely a whisper now. They are close, I can feel them. Then we hide better. Daniel looked around the maintenance tunnel they were moving through. There. He pointed to a collapsed section where the old stones had fallen inward, creating a small cave. We can wait there until dark. They crawled into the hiding spot. It was cramped and dark and smelled of ancient dust. Daniel positioned himself at the entrance, his rifle ready. Lay behind him, her 4 arms wrapped around herself. I am dying, she said quietly. You know this. Daniel did not answer for a moment. Then he said, not if I can help it. There is nothing you can do. The poison is technology. Your medicines cannot stop it. She reached out with one arm and touched his shoulder. You have done more than anyone could ask, more than my own people did, but soon I will be gone and you must survive. Daniel turned to look at her. His face was hard. I told you before, I do not leave people behind. I am not your people. You are now. Stared at him. In all her years as queen, she had heard many promises. Nobles had sworn loyalty before betraying her. Advisors had pledged their lives before running away. Words meant nothing in the courts of power. They were just tools, weapons, ways to gain advantage. But this human meant what he said. She could see it in his eyes. He would die before he abandoned her. He would fight the entire military before he let them take her. It made no sense. There was no logic to it. Why? She asked. It was the same question she had asked many times. She still did not understand the answer. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. When I was young, my father told me a story about a dog he had when he was a boy. Old, mean, half-blind. One winter, the dog got lost in a storm. My father searched for 3 days, nearly froze to death. My mother asked him why he would risk so much for an old dog. What did he say? He said that loyalty is not about what makes sense, it is about what is right. Daniel looked at her with those strange human eyes. You needed help, I could give it, everything else is just details. Felt something shift inside her, not the poison, something else, something warmer. Your father sounds like a wise man, she said. He died 5 years ago. Heart attack working in the fields. He died doing what he loved. Daniel smiled, but there was sadness in it. He would have liked you. You have that same stubborn look he used to get when people told him something was impossible. They sat in silence for a while. Above them, through layers of stone and metal, they could hear the sounds of the city, patrols marching, announcements playing on public speakers. His voice declaring a new age for the empire. He is not fit to rule, said. He sees only power. He does not understand what leadership means. What does it mean? Thought about it. Service, she said finally. A true leader serves their people. They carry the weight so others do not have to. They sacrifice so others can live. She closed her eyes. I tried to be that leader. I tried to bring peace to an empire built on war. Perhaps that was my mistake. Peace is never a mistake, Daniel said. The people who think war is the answer are the ones making mistakes. My people do not see it that way. They want conquest. They want glory, promises them blood and territory. Her voice turned bitter. I promised them only safety and stability. I suppose I know which one they preferred. Not all of them. Someone must still be loyal to you. If they are hiding well. Tried to laugh, but it turned into a cough. Silver fluid appeared at the corner of her mouth. Daniel wiped it away with his sleeve. Save your strength, he said. When night comes, we move again. There must be somewhere safe in this city, someone who can help. They moved when darkness fell. The lower districts were different from the upper levels of the city. The buildings were older, more worn. The people were. The lights were dimmer. This was where the forgotten lived, the ones the great houses did not care about. Daniel noticed something as they moved. The people here did not look at with hatred. When they saw her, injured and struggling, some of them showed concern. One elderly female left food outside her door, pretending not to see them pass. A young male pointed them toward a safer route when patrols drew near. They still love you, Daniel said quietly. They remember who I was, replied. Before the nobles turned against me, before everything fell apart. She stumbled and Daniel caught her. I used to come to these districts. I would walk among the people, listen to their problems, try to help. The nobles thought I was foolish. A queen should not lower herself to speak with commoners, they said. That is exactly what a queen should do. Looked at him. You truly believe that? Where I come from, the best leaders are the ones who never forget where they started. The ones who remember that power is supposed to help people, not control them. Daniel helped her forward. You were a good queen. That is why they betrayed you. Good leaders are dangerous to people who want to do bad things. They found shelter in an abandoned temple in the old quarter. The building was crumbling, forgotten by everyone except the poor who sometimes used it for shelter. Daniel cleared a space for to rest and checked her wound again. It was getting worse. The poison is spreading, he said. He did not try to hide the truth from her. My supplies are not enough. We need medicine. There is an antidote, said, in the military medical facilities, but those are heavily guarded. We could never reach them. Then we find another way. Daniel sat beside her thinking. There must be someone, a doctor, a scientist, someone who is not loyal to. If there is, I do not know them. I do not know who to trust anymore. His voice cracked. For the first time since the coup, she sounded truly afraid. I am alone, Daniel, completely alone. Daniel took her hand. Her exoskeleton was cool against his skin, smooth and hard. But her grip was weak, so weak. You are not alone, he said. I am here, and I am not going anywhere. Looked at him. In the dim light of the abandoned temple, surrounded by dust and ruin, she saw something in this human that she had never seen in her own kind. True loyalty, true compassion, the willingness to suffer for someone else without asking for anything in return. Thank you, she whispered. Do not thank me yet, Daniel said. We are going to find that antidote. We are going to save your life. And then we are going to take back your throne. Almost smiled. You make it sound simple. The best plans are simple. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. Now rest. Tomorrow we start fighting back. Outside, they continued their hunt. The poison continued its work. The empire continued to burn. But in that abandoned temple, a queen and a soldier made a promise. They would survive this together, or they would die trying. The resistance found them on the 19th day. Daniel heard them coming before he saw them, footsteps in the darkness, too many to fight. He raised his rifle and positioned himself between the approaching sounds and sleeping form. If this was the end, he would make it count. Hold your fire, human. The voice came from the shadows. A tall female stepped into the dim light. She wore worn military armor from many battles. Her compound eyes were sharp and cold. I am Commander, she said. I served Queen for 30 years before the coup. We have been looking for her. Daniel did not lower his rifle. How do I know you are telling the truth? You do not, but if I wanted you dead, you would be dead already. Gestured, and a dozen armed emerged from the darkness around them. They had surrounded Daniel completely without making a sound. I am here to help. Let me see the queen. Woke then, stirring weakly on the floor of the temple. Her eyes found, and something like relief crossed her face. Commander, she whispered, you survived. Dropped to one knee. My queen. When the coup began, I was away from the capital. By the time I returned, had already claimed victory. They said you were dead. Her voice carried a deep emotion. I refused to believe it. I gathered those still loyal and began searching. How did you find us? The people in the lower districts. They speak of a wounded queen protected by a strange small creature, a being with soft pink skin and round eyes who fights like a demon. Looked at Daniel with something that might have been respect. Stories spread. We followed them. More resistance fighters came forward. They helped to her feet, supporting her carefully. Medical officers examined her wound and the spreading darkness beneath her skin. The poison is advanced, one of them said grimly. She has days at most. Then we move fast, said. Bring her to the base and bring the human. The resistance base was hidden deep beneath the city, in ancient tunnels that predated even the empire. Thousands of years ago, another species had lived here. Their ruins made perfect hiding spots for those who did not want to be found. The base held several hundred fighters, soldiers who had refused to follow, nobles who had spoken against the coup and fled before they could be arrested, scientists, doctors, engineers, all united by their loyalty to the old queen. They looked at Daniel with suspicion. He was small and strange and foreign. His species was young, barely present on the galactic stage. What could a human possibly offer? But silenced their questions with a raised hand. This human protected our queen alone for 19 days, she said. He fought. He kept her alive when no one else was there. He asked for nothing and expected nothing. She turned to the crowd. I have served with warriors from a dozen species. I have never seen loyalty like this. Spoke then. Her voice was weak, but it still carried the authority of a queen. Sergeant stays with us. He has earned that right more than anyone in this room. If anyone questions his place here, they question me. No one questioned further. The medical team worked through the night. They stabilized and slowed the poison spread, but they could not cure it. The antidote required specific compounds that only existed in one place, a military medical facility on the western edge of the capital. The facility is heavily guarded, explained, spreading holographic maps across a table. 300 soldiers, automated defense systems, multiple checkpoints. A direct assault would be suicide. Then we do not assault directly, Daniel said. Every in the room turned to look at him. He felt their alien eyes studying him, judging him. He did not care. I have looked at your maps, he continued. Your people are large. You need big corridors, big rooms, but humans are smaller. We fit in places you cannot go. He pointed to a network of narrow passages on the map. These maintenance tunnels lead directly into the facility, too small for, perfect for me. Frowned, you would go alone. No, I would lead a small team, 3 or 4 fighters who can move quietly. We enter through the tunnels, take what we need, and leave before anyone knows we were there. Daniel looked at the map again. Your people think like, you expect enemies to attack like, I can use that. I can do things they will not expect. This is very dangerous, said. Everything is dangerous now, but this plan has a chance. A direct assault does not. There was silence, then spoke. Daniel, you have done enough. You do not need to do this. Daniel turned to her. She looked so fragile now, lying on the medical bed. Her exoskeleton had lost its shine. Her eyes were dim. She was dying, and everyone in the room knew it. Yes, I do, he said simply. The raid was planned for 2 nights later. Daniel would lead 3 of his best infiltrators through the maintenance tunnels. They would neutralize the guards, locate the compounds, and extract before reinforcements could arrive. The night before the mission, called Daniel to her bedside. I want you to know something, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Whatever happens tomorrow, you have already changed me, changed how I see the universe. How? I thought I understood loyalty. I thought I understood duty, but I only understood words. She reached out and touched his face with one of her 4 arms. Her touch was gentle, almost tender. You showed me what those words actually mean. You showed me that the universe is not as cold as I believed. Daniel took her hand. You showed me something too. What? That some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight seems impossible. He smiled. I was just a soldier before this, following orders, doing my job. You made me remember why I became a soldier in the first place. Why did you? Because I wanted to protect people. I wanted to help. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that. You helped me remember. They stayed like that for a long moment, human, and so different yet somehow connected by something deeper than species or biology. The raid began at midnight. Daniel moved through the maintenance tunnels like a ghost. The fighters behind him struggled in the tight spaces, but they managed. They reached the facility without being detected. The guards never saw them coming. Daniel used tactics he had learned in a dozen training exercises on Earth: diversion, misdirection, speed. He created chaos in one section while his team moved through another. He exploited blind spots in the security that only existed because humans were smaller than. He took a plasma burn to his shoulder during the escape. One of his team members was wounded in the leg, but they got the compounds. When Daniel staggered back into the base, barely conscious and bleeding, was waiting at the entrance. She caught him as he fell, her 4 arms wrapping around him with surprising strength. Foolish human, she whispered, but her voice was filled with emotion, not criticism. Brave, foolish, wonderful human. Did I get it? Daniel asked weakly. The antidote. You got it, appeared beside them, holding the medical case. Her eyes showed something new as she looked at Daniel. Respect, yes, but also wonder. You actually got it. Daniel smiled through the pain. Good, he said. Then my job is done." He passed out in his arms, surrounded by aliens who had learned something important that night. Humans were small, humans were strange, humans were soft and fragile and short-lived. But when a human decided to fight for something they believed in, nothing in the universe could stop them. The antidote worked. Within 3 days, the darkness beneath skin began to fade. Within a week, she could stand on her own again. Within 2 weeks, she was fully recovered. But she was not the same queen who had fallen during the coup. Something had changed inside her. The days spent hiding in the darkness, the hours spent dying while a stranger from another world fought to save her, the kindness of the poor and forgotten who had helped her when her own nobles betrayed her. All of it had left marks that no medicine could erase. "When I return to power," she told Daniel one evening, "things will be different. I was blind before. I saw only the palace, only the court, only the games of the great houses. I did not see my people. You see them now." "Yes, and I will not forget." Her compound eyes were bright again, filled with determination. "Offers war and conquest. I will offer something better, justice, equality, a chance for every, not just the nobles." Daniel smiled. "That sounds like a revolution." "Perhaps it is." Looked at him with something warm in her expression. "You taught me that, you know. You showed me that loyalty has nothing to do with blood or position. A human soldier from a world I had never heard of showed more honor than my entire court. I just did what anyone should do." "No, you did what almost no one does. That is what makes you special." She reached out and touched his shoulder, the one that was still healing from the plasma burn. "How is your wound?" "Getting better. Your doctors are good." "They should be. You gave them plenty of practice." The resistance had grown during his recovery. News of her survival had spread through the underground networks. Loyalists who had been hiding emerged to join his forces. Soldiers who had reluctantly followed began to defect. Even some of the great houses started to reconsider their position. Was not the ruler they had expected. His promises of glory had turned into demands for tribute. His war plans required sacrifices that the nobles had not anticipated. The conquest he preached meant their own children dying on distant battlefields. They began to remember why they had supported in the first place. Commander brought the intelligence reports each morning. She laid out maps and troop movements and political analyses. Daniel sat in on every meeting, learning the shape of the conflict, offering suggestions when he saw opportunities. The officers had stopped questioning his presence. After the raid on the medical facility, they had accepted him as one of their own. More than that, they had begun to study human military tactics. Daniel found himself teaching classes on guerrilla warfare, asymmetric combat, and the strategies that humans had developed over thousands of years of fighting each other. "Your species fights itself constantly," observed one day. "It is remarkable that you survived long enough to reach the stars." "We are stubborn," Daniel said, "also lucky." "There is more to it than that," studied him with her compound eyes. "You adapt, you learn, you find ways to win that other species would never consider. It is somewhat terrifying." "Should I apologize?" "No, just help us defeat my queen's brother." The plan for retaking the capital came together over the following weeks. It was ambitious, complex, and dependent on timing that left almost no room for error. Would lead the main assault on the palace while strike teams hit military targets across the city. Defecting officers would open gates and disable defenses at critical moments. But the key was herself. "The people need to see me," she said during the final planning session. "They need to know that I am alive, that I am fighting. If I hide while others die for me, I am no better than." "My queen, the risk is too great," protested. "If you are killed, everything falls apart." "If I hide like a coward, we have already lost." Stood tall, her 4 arms crossed in the traditional pose of determination. "I will lead the assault on the palace. I will face my brother. This is not a suggestion." No one argued further. When a queen spoke in that tone, argument was pointless. Daniel found her later, alone in the small chamber she used for private meditation. She was staring at a holographic image of the palace, the home she had lost. "Are you afraid?" he asked. "Yes, very afraid." She did not look away from the image. "I may die tomorrow. My people may die. Everything I have worked for may end in blood and fire. But you are going anyway." "I must. A queen who will not fight for her people does not deserve to lead them." She finally turned to face him. "Will you stay beside me?" "You have to ask." She almost smiled. "No, I suppose I do not." The attack began before dawn. Explosions lit up the sky across the capital as resistance forces struck simultaneously at a dozen targets. Power stations went dark. Communication towers fell. Military barracks erupted in chaos as defecting officers turned on their commanders. And at the main gate of the palace, Queen appeared with an army at her back. The battle was fierce, had prepared for this possibility, and his loyalists fought with desperate fury. The palace corridors became killing grounds. Ancient halls that had stood for 10,000 years were scorched by plasma fire. Daniel stayed beside through all of it. He fought with his human rifle when the enemy was far and his combat knife when they got close. He took wounds that should have killed him and kept fighting. He protected his queen with every breath in his body. They found in the throne room. He stood before the ancient seat of power, surrounded by his last loyal guards. His compound eyes were wild with rage and fear. He had expected to rule an empire. Now he was trapped in a single room, watching everything collapse around him. "Sister," he spat the word, "you should be dead." "Many people have told me that recently," stepped forward, her own guards flanking her. "They were wrong. This changes nothing. Kill me, and another will take my place. The great houses will never accept you again. The great houses are not as united as you believe. Many of them have already sent messages of support." His voice was cold. "Your promises were empty, glory and conquest, but at what cost? Their children's lives, their families' honor. They finally see what you really are." "And what is that?" "A coward who betrayed his blood for power he could not keep." Screamed and charged at her. His guards tried to follow, but Daniel was faster. He moved like lightning, putting himself between the siblings. His rifle came up. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots. His guards fell. Himself stopped just feet away from his sister. Daniel's rifle pointed at his face. "One more step," Daniel said quietly, "and I end this." Stared at him. At this small, soft, strange creature who had destroyed everything. A human. A single human had kept his sister alive, had the resistance, had led the raid that turned the tide. "Who are you?" he whispered. "Nobody important, just someone who keeps his promises." Stepped forward. She looked at her brother, this male who had murdered her guards, poisoned her, hunted her like an animal. She saw the fear in his eyes, the desperation. "I should kill you," she said. "I want to kill you, but I will not." She turned to, "Take him. He will face trial before the people. Let them see what justice looks like in my empire." Was dragged away, screaming threats that no one listened to anymore. The palace was secured by noon. The fighting ended by evening. By nightfall, Queen stood on the balcony of the throne room, looking out over a city that was battered but free. Daniel stood beside her, as he always had. "We did it," she said. Her voice was filled with wonder. "We actually did it." "You did it, I just helped." "No," she turned to face him. "We did this together, every step of the way. I could not have survived without you, Daniel. I would not have wanted to." She reached out and took his hand. Human and so different in every way, standing together in the ruins of an empire that would be rebuilt. "What happens now?" Daniel asked. "Now we build something better." Looked out at the city. "Something worth all the blood and pain and sacrifice. A kingdom that deserves the loyalty of people like you." And what about me? Smiled. It was an alien expression, strange and beautiful on her face. You stay, she said, if you want to. Daniel looked at the alien queen, at the world he had never planned to visit, at the future he had never imagined. I want to, he said. And that was that. The coronation of Queen was broadcast across the entire empire and beyond. Every allied species, every neutral observer, every curious civilization in the quadrant watched as the queen who had been betrayed, poisoned, and left for dead reclaimed her throne. But they were not watching her. They were watching the small figure standing at her right hand, the human soldier in his simple uniform, his face from battles, his body still healing from wounds taken in her service, the being who had changed everything. Daniel had received many offers in the weeks since the victory. The United Earth Coalition wanted him back. They wanted to parade him before the media, use his story to inspire recruitment, make him a symbol of human courage. Ambassador Vance had contacted him personally, promising promotions, honors, a hero's welcome on Earth. He had declined all of it. My place is here, he told her during their final conversation. I have made promises I intend to keep. The ambassador had studied him through the communication screen. She was a skilled diplomat who had seen many things in her career, but this was new, even to her. You understand what you are giving up, she said. Earth, your family, your entire species. I understand. And you are staying anyway. Yes. She had been silent for a long moment. Then she smiled. Your father would be proud, she said. The coalition is proud, and if you ever want to come home, the door is always open. Daniel had thanked her and closed the channel. Home was a strange concept now. He had grown up on a ranch in Montana, beneath wide skis and distant mountains. He had joined the military and traveled to worlds he had never dreamed of visiting. He had ended up on a planet full of aliens, protecting a queen he had never meant to serve. And somehow, this was where he belonged. Queen had created a new position in her court for him. The Queen's Shield, she called it. A role reserved for the being who had proven their loyalty beyond all doubt. It was unprecedented. No alien had ever held a formal position in the government. No human had ever been trusted with such responsibility by another species. Daniel accepted without hesitation. The coronation ceremony was long and filled with traditions he did not understand. He stood at attention while priests chanted in ancient languages and nobles performed rituals that had been unchanged for 10,000 years. He watched receive the crown of her ancestors, a delicate structure of woven metals that seemed to float above her head. When it was over, she turned to him. You look bored, she said quietly, her voice carrying only to his ears. Just tired. These ceremonies are longer than human military formations. They are almost finished, then we can rest, she paused, together. Daniel smiled. I would like that. The celebration lasted for 3 days. The people of the capital filled the streets, dancing and singing and celebrating their queen's return. Food was shared freely. Old grudges were forgotten, at least for now. Hope filled the air like perfume. Daniel walked among them sometimes, this small, strange creature in his human uniform. Children stared at him with curiosity. Adults approached him with thanks. Everyone knew his story now. Everyone knew what he had done. You are famous, told him one evening. She had been assigned as his military liaison, a role she had accepted with something like amusement. The human who saved the queen, the alien who showed us what loyalty means. I did not do it for fame. That is exactly why you are famous, studied him with her compound eyes. I have lived a long time, Daniel. I have seen many species and many cultures. I have fought beside warriors from a dozen worlds, but I have never met anyone like you. I am not special. That is what makes you special. She shook her head, a gesture she had learned from watching humans. Your species speaks often of love and honor and duty, So do many species, but you actually believe in these things. You live them even when it costs you everything." She walked away before he could respond. Daniel stood alone for a moment, thinking about her words. Was he special? He did not feel special. He had done what anyone should do. He had helped someone who needed help. He had stayed when others left. He had fought for what was right. Simple things, basic things. The things his father had taught him back on a ranch in Montana, under skies so different from these. But perhaps that was the point. Perhaps simple things were the most powerful things of all. The months that followed were filled with change, kept her promises about reform. She opened the courts to common people. She reduced the power of the great houses. She created new laws that protected the poor and the forgotten, the in the lower districts who had helped her survive. Some nobles resisted. Some threatened rebellion, but faced them with the confidence of a queen who had survived the worst they could do. And always Daniel stood beside her. They became something that no one had expected, a partnership that transcended species and culture and biology. When was uncertain, Daniel gave her strength. When Daniel was lost in this alien world, helped him understand. They balanced each other, complemented each other, became more together than either could be alone. Other species watched this relationship with fascination. Humans were supposed to be aggressive, territorial, driven by self-interest. They were supposed to be threats to be contained, not allies to be trusted. Yet here was one of them, standing beside an alien queen, asking for nothing but the chance to serve. Diplomatic messages began arriving from across the quadrant. Species that had viewed humanity with suspicion now wanted to know more. They wanted to understand how such loyalty was possible. They wanted to know if other humans were like Daniel. "You are changing how the galaxy sees your people," told him one night. They were sitting together in her private chambers, watching the stars through the great windows of the palace. "One human, and you are reshaping everything." "I did not mean to." The most important things are rarely intended. She moved closer to him, her 4 arms folding around herself in a gesture of contentment. When historians ask about this time, they will speak of the queen who was betrayed and the human who stayed. They will try to understand why you did what you did. "What will you tell them?" Was quiet for a moment, then she spoke. "I will tell them that when everyone who shared my blood abandoned me, you stayed. When logic demanded you flee, you remained. When there was nothing to gain and everything to lose, you chose loyalty over survival." Her compound eyes shimmered in the starlight. "You taught me that the universe is not as cold as I believed. You showed me that kindness can exist between strangers, between species, between worlds that have nothing in common except the desire to do what is right." Daniel listened in silence. He thought about his father, who had searched for an old dog in a blizzard because loyalty was not about what made sense. He thought about his mother, who had worried about him across the stars. He thought about home, the place he had left behind to stay in a world he had never planned to visit. "What would you tell them?" asked, "if historians asked you why you stayed?" Daniel thought about it for a long moment, then he shrugged. "She needed help," he said simply. "I could provide it, everything else is just details." Laughed. It was a strange sound, alien and beautiful. That is the most human answer possible. "I am a human, what did you expect?" They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars turn overhead. 2 beings from different worlds, different species, different everything, united by something stronger than blood or biology. Loyalty, simple, stubborn, irrational loyalty. The galaxy was vast and cold and filled with danger, but sometimes in unexpected places, warmth could be found. Sometimes a stranger could become family. Sometimes a single act of kindness could echo across the stars. Daniel had learned that on a world, standing beside a queen who had lost everything except him. And Queen had learned it too, in the darkness beneath her ruined palace, when a human soldier had knelt beside her and refused to leave. Some bonds were stronger than species. Some promises were meant to be kept forever. And some stories, the best stories, were about the simple truth that everyone deserved someone who would stay. No matter what. The stars continued their ancient dance above them. The universe continued its endless expansion. Empires rose and fell across the quadrant. But in the palace of the empire, a queen and her shield sat together in peace. Exactly where they were meant to be. Exactly where they would stay. Together,